You're tuned into the Writing Community YouTube podcast that brings you the stories of authors, screenwriters, and more. Indie or established, this show's for the community, and we invite you to be a part of it. Head to the writingcommunitychatshow.com for more info. The WCCS. Together as one, we get it done.
Hello and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. Hello and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show, which I have decided, Chris doesn't know about this, is the last episode of season 13. Because we got the amazing Jonathan Stroud returning next week. I know the excitement is ridiculous for that. So we're going to start season 14 there. We normally have a little break, but we're just going to go straight into it. It's Friday. It's a long weekend for us in the UK, which is amazing. So we're having a good time, and I'm going to try and relax as best we can. But this show, if you're new here, is hosted by myself and Chris. And we talk about all things books and writing. And what we do is we interview authors about their life, and we find out all their writing kind of secrets, tips, and hints as well, which can really help you as an author. You come to the right place to enjoy your Friday evening if you are in that world. And even if you're not, if you love people and their life stories, this is also a great place to come as well. How are you doing, Chris Hooley? It's great to be back here, sat with you and having a chat. It means it's Friday, which is a great sign. How are things?
Wow, that is a good sign for season 14. I think that's the most professional intro of the show that you've ever done.
And I just waffled that off, yeah. But it's true. It's all good. And Jonathan Stroud was an absolute blast last season. He came on last season, I think. When he came on, anyway, his Lock Nation army is ridiculously good, and they'll be in masses supporting him again next week. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, he is a great guest, but tonight we've got a great guest as well, and really looking forward to chatting to it and picking up brains. I'm sure people in the comments will be as well. So if you've got any questions for tonight's guest, please wait till the third section of the show where you can ask them directly, and we'll pop them on screen. And yeah, enjoy your Friday, long weekend, good times.
Does that happen in America? I'm not sure. Like bank holiday Mondays?
I'm guessing they would have similar sort of things in America.
We
can find out. If you're from America, let us know. Do you have bank holidays?
Yeah, they probably do, right?
Basically just a Monday or Friday off.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, Chris, things have been kind of busy. We started a Kickstarter. Well, I started a Kickstarter again. I just do things without telling you. Started a Kickstarter this week, trying to get us our little studio set up. It hasn't gone very well so far. It's on a time scale as well. So if you are interested in supporting us in a Kickstarter, go in the link description. A link in the description, and you can find that there, a bit of information about what we're doing. And it's been kind of busy around all aspects. Writing, I haven't got into, and I'm sure, Chris, you are still way up on that.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of academic writing this week, which has been rubbish. But I've also done some fictional writing, which has been pretty good. And I finished Billy Summers by Stephen King, which I still have an issue with King because I don't necessarily always enjoy his endings. Like 90% of the book, I'm there, I'm engrossed, and then the last sort of 10%, I'm like, oh, he's kind of done it again. I'm not a fan. But yeah, if you've read Billy Summers, let me know if you think I'm wrong.
That's interesting, because a couple of weeks ago we had a guest on who answered the best author ever was Stephen King. And we put that little video out, and a lot of people said yes. Some other people suggested other authors. But taking from what you just said, Stephen King perhaps isn't the best author ever with those endings.
I think he is, but the endings sometimes just let him down. I think he should just keep writing. I'd love just like a continuous blog type thing from him where it just didn't end and just carry on. Some sort of weird universe. But yeah. So that's been reading
referring
this
back
week.
to the bank holidays, Anna says, yes, we do, but not this weekend. And Linda says, no long weekend for us. Next major holiday is Memorial Day. So, yeah, they do. And I'm probably stupid for asking that, but I do apologize. I don't apologize for my stupidity. It's always been there. Halo is in the house. Hello to you again. Hello, Linda. Thank you for joining in live. We know it's a big ask for people to join us live, and we really do appreciate it. And for you listening back or watching it back, yeah, we love that too as well. Please leave us comments what your weekend plans are. If you want to leave them on our socials, you can do indeed. We are on X, we are on Instagram, on TikTok, and LinkedIn, and kind of everything. Facebook. We are on other things too, but we don't use those. But there you go. Get in touch with us. Let us know how your weekend is. And we are ready. Chris, are we ready to chat to tonight's guest?
Yeah, and somebody else who's got a fantastic weekend planned is tonight's guest. So I think it's about time we get her on.
Yeah, definitely. I think you guys will enjoy this conversation. And remember, Chris did say there's question time at the end, but if you have any burning questions throughout the conversation that are related to what we're talking about, you are welcome to send those in, because they could be relevant to you and to some other audience, and they could be very helpful to you. And we can ask those as well. So be open-minded about the questions you send in. But if they are relevant to your career, if you're relevant to your career, send them in. Okay. So today we are joined by an incredibly talented author and agent, Chloe Seager, a force to be reckoned with in the world of literature. Chloe wears many hats, from being a powerhouse literary agent at the Agency to weaving captivating tales as an author herself. Her journey through the realms of publishing is nothing short of inspiring, and we can't wait to dive into it deep. Oh, I've messed that up. Deep into her experiences, insights, and of course, her amazing books. So grab your favorite cup of tea, your beer, your gin, your wine, or whatever wets your whistles, and let's get into a literary adventure with tonight's guest. Everybody, please welcome Chloe Seager. Hello, Chloe.
Hi. That was a very nice introduction. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on a Friday evening. How are things?
Thank you for having me. No, things are good. Got my wine. Just had my takeaway.
Oh, really?
Can't ask for more than that. Yeah.
A takeaway before the show. I'm impressed. Most people fall asleep at that point.
Yeah, no, I get hungry. I've got to eat by like 6, 7. Otherwise, I would be in a very bad mood to have this conversation. I wouldn't be half as full.
Wow. You get
and then
hungry.
The hanger is real. I get really bad hanger. I need to have like a supply of Malwams on hand at all times just to stave it off.
I love that. Properly. Chris, do you want to try and, if you're happy to reveal this information, guess what takeaway Chloe's had?
Oh, do I want to try and guess? Oh God. You live near London, don't you? So you've got
I'm in London,
an array of takeaways.
It could be anything.
Yeah, it could be. I'm gonna say Greek. I'm gonna go Greek just because it's slightly obscure.
Yeah,
that was quite obscure. If you'd been right, that would have been very impressive. We actually do regularly get Greek down the road.
Can I suggest what I think?
Go on.
Tie?
It was a tie.
Yes! Oh my God. I knew that. That's weird. I'm not psychic at all, but there you go. Wow, a nice Thai curry. I love a Thai curry. Green or red, or was it something else?
Green. I know. I'm really basic Thai curry eater.
Basic
the green,
Thai curry,
the most popular.
Yeah,
it was great.
We'll just talk about food now.
Yeah,
love it. So London, as you mentioned, you're in London, as Chris mentioned. We are always interested to know about the writing scene and where people are from, and often it's a case of yes, there's always a writing scene wherever it seems to be. But I'm assuming London is really up there when it comes to being able to connect with people. So how much of a writing scene is there? Do you get to connect with those writers and perhaps the readers as well?
Do you see how much of a writer scene is there in London?
Yeah.
Big one.
Yeah, I know it's a stupid question, but like
a big writer scene. Yeah. I mean, I because I work in publishing, it's obviously quite an industry-wide problem. We're constantly trying to make publishing less London-centric. As of yet, we have not succeeded. All the jobs are in London. So from that perspective, I think there's a big scene. In terms of like where other writers are actually from, I think because I'm so busy with publishing, often the writers that I know are kind of my clients that I represent. I don't actually have like other writer friends because I already have them through my job. So writer to writer, I don't often like socialize in that way because I'm always at launch parties or at publishing parties. So I'm kind of already in it that way, if that makes sense. So I can't comment that much on the London writing scene, but the publishing scene is all here for sure.
And how is a publishing scene like for us? We often, like Harrogate, we're going to again next month, and it's something we really enjoy, and it's very kind of social. So is a publishing scene similar, or is it very professional in sense?
No, it's very. I mean, it depends who you meet. I'm not professional, so I tend to just steer it away quite quickly. No, it's very boozy. And it's very sociable. This next week, I have 2 book launches, one on a Tuesday, one on a Friday. It's often that. I think, honestly, if you work in publishing and you want to make your entire life publishing, it'd be very easy to do that. And actually, I think if you don't want it to be your whole life, you have to set quite strict boundaries. There's always something you can be going to. You can always be going for drinks, with editors, or there's some kind of party, there's some kind of something. So it's a lot.
So as a lot of authors tend to be quite introverts, as a publisher, you really need to be quite a social animal and be able to go out on a night where you feel kind of tired or hangry and socialize when you kind of feel like perhaps that's not what you want to do.
Oh, totally. And, I think a lot of publishing people are also quite introverted. Like anyone who likes books probably has quite an introverted side. And I think I was actually talking about this with someone at Penguin the other day, how being an agent, being an editor actually is very sociable in a sense that you are expected to do a lot outside of work. Not only that, when you're trying to win clients, you have to kind of try and charm them, like as an agent, you have to inspire, want them to, they have to want to sign with you. And then as an editor, it's not just enough to be a good editor, but they have to inspire confidence in, the whole team to get behind a book and to pitch it in-house and get the sales and marketing on board and all the directors and the financial spend. And actually, I think there is a lot of extroversion that's required that, isn't something that all readers necessarily want to do.
Wow.
So Chloe, I'm really interested to obviously get into the writing side of your life, but before we do that, a lot of people do watch the show that are interested in other areas. So what advice would you give to somebody who is looking to get into publishing, that was literally just say they were fresh out of school and they were thinking, I love books and I'd love to be involved. What can I do? What would be the best thing for them to do?
That's a good question. I joined the SYP, which they had a lot, because I didn't know anything about publishing at all. I didn't have any connections, any links. I just knew that I liked books, and obviously I live in London, so that made things easier. But the SYP run events that are kind of like speed career dating events, so you can meet people from different areas, and they kind of give you an overview of the different areas of publishing that you can get into. So I found that really helpful. Actually, they missed agenting off though, so they should really add it on. When I went, I started in publicity because I didn't really know that agents were a thing, and then I found out later that's like the shadowy area of publishing that no one ever knows about. But I found that really helpful. And I think look at the books you like and see who publishes them, see who agents them, and then write speculatively to those places and say, I'm a big fan of your books. Do you have any internships going? I think having just sifted through over 200 applications for my new assistant, it really helps if someone actually is familiar with what you do and the books you actually represent. So that's
how would someone find out that information then? If it helps to know what you do. Okay, so do their research. Clearly
flip to the back. See who reps it, who publishes it.
What would make you Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Chris. Go on. You carry on your question. I'll save mine.
I was going to say, what would make you instantly looking at those applications go, no?
Well, it was so for this particular job, it was a children's and YA assistant role, and we asked for their favorite books, and some of them didn't even mention a children's book. Now, that to me, I actually don't care if you don't read children's, right? Like you can maybe do the job or get into it or be interested in it, but the lack of common sense that shows.
Yeah, of course.
That you didn't even mention a children's book for a children's book position. I was like, no, those ones just went in the no pile.
In the bin. Yeah. Sorry, Chris, go on.
No, mine was like more of I've kind of just visualized a young person applying for a role like this, and knowing what I've seen from the advertisements, the money's not great. So living in London on a small salary that is in a job that requires you to be social and drink and go out and, mingle with people. What are your 3 tips for somebody to survive that process? Because I should imagine after a year or 2, it gets easier, but I can imagine the initial bit being very frightening and quite difficult. So what advice would you give to them?
Well, on the plus side, the drinks are free. So there's that, the money side. But the money is difficult. Advice. I just think you have to really love books. And you have to really, I think you're right. It's difficult. It's low. When you first start, it's low pay. It's high expectations. It's high pace. And if you don't really love it, I think probably there are better paid things you could be doing with your time. Is that good advice?
Yeah, it is, especially as an internship, because they're going to get paid less than even the actual wage. So I think, that's a really good question, Chris, and it's very insightful, I think, to know. A lot of people will just see, when you apply for a job generally, or a lot of young people applying for jobs, see the glory of things. They see the good times, but they never think about the kind of hardships of that role. So I think that's a really valuable question and some good advice. But good stuff. What we're going to do, because there's going to be a lot of conversation in this and a lot of insightful information that we're going to take from it. We want to find out your story, Chloe. So we're going to play the first video, which is the road to writing. And then we're going to jump into your kind of life story a little bit, if that's all right. And then find out how you got into the whole publishing world, how you started writing. And that often reveals a lot of tips as well. So the road to writing is coming right up. So a very random comment just came in. Says Linda from Anya, I'm sorry about your plant. I hope your plant's all right, Linda. I'm not sure what happened there, but best wishes to your plant. Chloe, where did the world of writing and publishing start for you? Which came first? And do you remember what step or what kind of motivated you to take that first step in that world?
It's always been quite an easy one for me because ever since a young age, I liked books. I liked writing them. I liked reading them. And every time I thought of what I could do with my life, it was always books. So in a way, it's like, I wish I was more, I have no other skills or hobbies. Like that's it. I really like books. So it was an easy one for me. Like I'm not good at other stuff. Maths, science, rubbish. It was always about English lit. Basically, and actually I did drama and English at university and quickly realized I couldn't act. So that was also part of that. Then I started working in publishing when I was about 21, my first job in publicity. And then I started writing a book kind of at the same time as I started working my first agency job. So I wrote it over the summer, my first summer there. I think maybe it was like seeing all the people who were writing books and submitting them to us. I was like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll give it a go. Like I want to write something. And I think it makes sense if you like reading. A lot of people like reading, also like writing. So they kind of came around a similar time.
Yeah, sorry.
Was there a particular motivation for you in terms of like, did you read, like, was it a really bad submission? Because some people say, if we're getting this and we're considering it, like maybe I should give it a crack. And when that idea came to mind, how did you approach writing your first sort of manuscript?
So I wasn't inspired by any particularly bad submission. We get a lot of submissions. I probably get about 150 a week. So like there's a lot in there. But I think it was just the idea occurred from just being at an agency that people were out there doing this, and this was the route. This was how you did it. And I think actually, when writing, I mean, obviously it's hard, but I think it's actually, there's a more direct route with writing a novel than there is with acting, with music. Like if you write something really, really good that is really, really marketable and hits the right time, like you send it to people, and there are people who can get you published who are actually looking, which is quite wild, because I think in a lot of creative industries that's not the case. Like you could write a really amazing album, and no one would be maybe looking at it. I don't know the ins and outs of the music industry, but I think it's a lot less straightforward actually. So I think it was that, and then I'd always really liked the George Nicholson books as a teenager, and so I just started writing my own version of that. I was in this really tiny little room, and I used to I had this big mirror on the wall, and when it was writing time, I used to hang a blanket on the mirror just to make it like, now this is a writing studio. Speaking of kind of rubbish first flats in London.
Wow.
I was 22.
Yeah, that's an amazing conversion.
Yeah.
So do you remember any books in particular that really inspired you to want to start your own writing journey?
Probably the Louise Renaissance, because I just loved, they were my touchstone as a teenager. So yeah, it was probably those. And then I'm a big fan of the rom-com, just all the rom-coms.
Yes.
So when you start to decide that you're going to step into that world, how do you navigate the love that you have for a certain author or style over your own unique voice and bringing your spin on it? What did you do, and could you give anyone any tips who's looking to maybe do that themselves?
As in from converting what you love to your own unique voice?
Yeah.
Without kind of copying it. That is hard. I think what a lot of my authors do, and what I sometimes do, is I think about what I love about the books that I love and how I can kind of replicate that. But as you say, you do need to bring your own stamp to it. So thinking about your own unique voice, your own unique experience, and how to bring that to the page as well, so that you're not just ripping off another author. I mean, it's something as well as an agent. We're always looking for something that is the same but different, like it fits in on a shelf, but what's the thing that makes it unique? And I think knowing your own strengths as well. Like there's some things I love reading, but I can never write that. Like I love reading fantasy. I can't write fantasy. So like knowing your own strengths is very important.
Chloe, when you first started writing your own book and you had that inspiration from things you've picked up, things you've read, because you have read so many books through your work professionally and for your pleasure, did you feel a weight of kind of expectation or pressure that what you had to deliver was something really good, or did you kind of feel like what you'd written was easily fitting in there, if that makes sense?
Well, I do now. Now I'm like, oh God, yeah, that'd be good, hadn't it? I'm an agent. Now I feel like the writing hat and the agenting hat are so different. Honestly, you can, and I think it's the same for a lot of editors or agents who write. You can write your own stuff, and then you still can't see the wood for the trees with it. You still need someone else to help you shape it and edit it. Much in the same way that I will look at some of my authors' work and help them. I don't think it's necessarily that we would expect publishing professionals' work to come in perfectly, because you need that objective eye, and obviously with your own stuff you just don't have that.
I agree.
We talked a lot on the show about like formulas and structures and things like Save the Cat, for people writing manuscripts. Did you consult anything like that when you started out, and would you advise people to go to that type of literature for when they're writing a novel, from an agent point of view as well as from a writer's hat?
So I don't and didn't, and I'm very all about the vibes. So like all about the vibes. I'm like, it will come, the story will build. But I do really appreciate, I do plan before I start writing, but I don't have like a set formula or like a study. No, not really. I think just because I read a lot, it naturally, the kind of structure is of, and especially with something like a rom-com, they're quite formulaic. So if you've read enough of them, the formula is really in your head. But I think a lot of writers obviously do find studying the craft very useful and helpful, and probably is beneficial to the writing process. Hold my hands up, I can't say that I've ever done it, but I'm sure it helps.
I know.
So that's from the writing point, but what about an agent point? Like if somebody sent you a manuscript and they said, this manuscript is blah, 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 it's like one day meets a time traveler's wife, it's following the Save the Cat structure, what would your initial gut reaction as an agent be to that sort of proposal?
I got to say, structure is not the thing that I first look at. I'm like concept, vibes, voice, and we can help people, replot, structure stuff. So it's not necessarily something that I'm focused on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if you, I know we're talking about all the publishing side of things now. If you're looking at, you have the ability to help someone go in that direction that you want them to go into, what's the one thing that you kind of look for initially? If that makes sense? If you know you can mold them, what are the telltale signs that it's worth molding?
So that's hard, because sometimes we take on something because we love the concept and the voice, and then it needs a lot of work. And then, a couple months into the process, we're like, this person, it's a lot of work. Maybe they can't edit. Editing, I think, is actually a very different skill to writing. And being able to edit, not everyone has both. Some people can edit really well. Some people can write really well. You need a magical combination of being able to do both. And so, for us, it's always a gamble taking stuff on. You don't always necessarily know what you're going to have, what's going to come out the other side of the process. But I think you just get a gut instinct. That's such a wishy-washy answer. I'm like, what excites me? What interests me? Am I excited by the concept? Am I excited by the voice? Do I think it's worth putting this work in? Because as well, we're working for free. So, we don't get paid until the author gets paid. So we do have to think it's worth it. But yes, in answer to your question, it's very hard to know.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. I was
going to say gambling. It's professional gambling.
Yeah. I was going to say just now that Chris is, we've had a good conversation this whole season, that Chris is very fond of a rom-com movie that a lot of people disagree with. So I'd love to hear your take on this, Chris. Can you ask the question?
Don't know if I can bring it up. It's a really sore point now, because some people have agreed and some people have gone against it. But
which movie is this?
This is La La Land, and I said that I think La La Land is one of the greatest portrayals of love that ever exists on film. Because I too love a rom-com, but I love La La Land because of the fact that you got that alternative timeline where they could have been together. See, people are already disagreeing in the comments. They could have been together and had what they wanted, but their sort of life forced them apart. And then you see that montage of them together, and they would have still got to the same point. But that's the tragic element for me. Like, if they'd have took a step back from their lives, they'd have been able to. I'm talking now. I'm going on a rant, but what do you think, Chloe? La La Land, yes or no?
I'm so sorry to say that I've actually never seen La La Land. I know that's really that's one of the ones that's just totally passed me by.
That's the best thing.
But all I remember about La La Land is when they went to announce it for the Oscars, and they were like, "Oh no, actually, sorry, it wasn't you guys."
Oh wow, yeah.
But I'm probably with you, because I'm a real fan of stuff that's a bit pessimistic like that. So if that's the ending, then I probably would have liked it. I'm one of the only people, this is not related really, but I'm one of the only people who's a fan of the way the Jaime Cersei storyline ended in Game of Thrones, where he does all that character development and then he just goes back to her. I bloody loved that. I was like, yeah. He tried to get away from her, but he couldn't. He just went crawling back and then died.
That's like a human instinct, though, right? That's human of him, I think.
I agree. And I think if you're close to death, you just seek out what you know. I was like,
yeah, exactly.
I believe.
Yeah. So the rom-com world is something that you're writing well into at the moment. What do you love in the rom-com world? What is it that attracts you?
I think it's just the escapism of it. I think especially because we've all had such a rubbish time with the pandemic, and it just feels like the news just gets worse and worse all the time. I just really love the kind of like safe, familiar, fun, escapist storytelling of it that you don't always get from other genres. And it's very character focused, obviously, which I also like.
Is. And I think with the rom-com kind of genre, you always feel like it's like a heartwarming, uplifting kind of genre. And especially when you talk about kind of COVID or the darker things that people kind of get on with their day-to-day lives, the escapism of having something that is heartwarming and uplifting is really valuable, more than just the story. It's almost like could be like loosely connected, like a therapy, if that makes sense.
Totally. So I just sold something from one of my authors. It's a kind of romantasy, like a fantasy romance. You've probably heard the term a lot, as it's being bandied around a lot. But she wrote it she's a doctor, and during the pandemic, she was seeing a lot of, death and just having not getting any breaks. And she had like 5-minute breaks on these really long shifts, and she would go and she would write her romantasy as escapism on these, on these tiny breaks, because she was seeing all this, tragedy really. So yeah, I think it's really important.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know how many rom-coms you read, but they're definitely not all uplifting. I think some of them are massive tearjerkers.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and there's the tearjerkers.
Yeah,
I tend to avoid those. Okay, we're going to move on to part 2 of the show, which is what's the story.
Let me ask one more question, Chris, before
Chris.
we do, please. Just because I wrote it down, and I won't get to ask it in the other sections. So I was going to ask, obviously, you're juggling all these hats. You got the editing hat, the writing hat, the agency hat, the publisher world going on and everything. So what does a typical day look like for you, Chloe? How do you divide and manage all of that book chaos? To the best way I could describe it.
So 9 to 5 is all agenting, and then week evenings is often publishing events or reading submissions, because you can't actually read submissions on your own time. If you called in a book, like, you're not going to be sitting reading the whole book during your working day. And then weekends are writing time. So that's how it divides.
Yeah,
that's 24/7 books.
Yeah,
it's a lot of it. Yeah, I've actually got a lot better at, believe it or not, I've got a lot better at being boundary with my time. In my 20s, I was shocking, but I actually sometimes now take the evening to not read a book. So
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So when you're writing as well, and you've dedicated time to write, what does a good and productive writing weekend look like for you in terms of like numbers? And like, we really try and drill down what, we had Ben Aronovich on the show, and he said, some days I'll write 250 words a day. If it's a really good day, I'll write 700 words. And I think breaking down the sort of stigma of what it takes to be a writer, consistently producing a similar set of numbers, that's really good for a lot of our viewers, because some people will say, I do a whole book in a month, and people think, there's no way I could fit that in. Like, I'm never going to be an author. And then you get some people like Ben who go, I do 250 every single day, but I do it all every day. So I just think it's good to know. So
I'm probably the opposite of Ben, in that I will take weeks where I do nothing, and then I'll write like a few thousand words in a day, which I think is, if I wasn't that kind of writer, it would be too difficult for me to be an agent and an author, because it's too busy. So I think if I can't do a big stint in a day where I get like 2,000-3,000 words down, I don't know how I would fit it in. Because but I need I can't sort of do it for a couple of hours and then leave it. I need to be like properly focused in for like a good chunk of the day. So that's probably.
And does your brain ever switch off from your characters and your writing, or are they constantly ticking over in your everyday life as well? So when you come back to it, it's kind of like, oh, I get this bit down that I had in my head from Tuesday or something.
I think I do switch off from them actually, because my head's also in other characters throughout the week for other people. So I think then it's quite nice to come. My brain works in quite a boundaried way. Like when I'm writing, and then I probably do switch off from it actually.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm very interested to know, as someone in your profession, how quickly do you read a book?
For fun or for work or?
Well, not so much for fun. I mean, that's interesting to know too, but like for work, because you've got so many to get through and submissions as well. How quickly can you read?
Ooh, I could read a whole middle grade or YA in a day. So like a working day. So like an 8-hour day. Yeah, probably. But it still takes me. I mean, that's probably slow for a publishing person. I actually think I'm still quite a slow reader for publishing. Yeah, there are people who are faster than me for sure.
What's the fastest you've heard of?
Ooh. I feel like my colleague Maddie Belter reads so much that I'm like, you must be. She'll read, and because she's a big fantasy fan, so she reads the really chunky ones as well, and then she'll be done. And then, you know, I don't know how fast she reads, but she must be going at like double the speed of me if she's reading that much.
Amazing. Yeah, the fantasy books tend to be absolutely huge, don't they?
They are. What I will say as well, though, about that taking me 8 hours is that you're not just reading, you're editing. So actually, that is quite a different brain, because if you're reading to creatively engage with what you can change about book, you're not just sitting there reading it.
Yeah, of course.
For fun. So that's also.
And when you're editing, is that with us being like in a modern world, are you just highlighting bits, or are you red penning bits, or and sending them back? What does that editing process look like?
All of the above. It's like, kill this character, this bit's too slow, get rid of this scene, change this over here, make the romance make me believe in the romance more. Like we make really big structural changes, which we would give in an editorial letter, and then on the manuscript sometimes we can take a red pen to it as well. So
if I was in that position and you had my book and you said kill a character, I would think
kill this character.
Mind blown how the hell, or get rid of it. How the hell I get rid of that and leave the story intact,
Yeah, it's like Jenga. I love saying that to people. Sometimes I'll just say that for a joke. I'm like, I want you to kill this character. And they'll be like, what? I'm like, no, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I love that.
Like that note.
Oh, so fun, but also so cruel. Yeah. I mean, have you ever had, it must have happened where you've suggested something and the author has been like, I can't do that.
Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes they're right. Sometimes our ideas, we're just brainstorming. Sometimes we are totally right and we make a change and we're like, yeah, this has made the book 100 times better. Sometimes I've suggested things and the authors push back, and then I'm like, you know what? Now I see your point. Now that you've explained it, I get it. Let's make it work. Sometimes I've suggested things and they've done it and I've been like, oh, rewind, rewind, take it back. It's not a one size fits all process. There are no actual clear cut right or wrong answers. It's a process. So I think as well, like having the right creative brains come together on a project is when the magic happens, because someone else would have taken the book in a completely different direction than you would have taken it. And so I always think that's really interesting.
No, do you have a question there, Chris? Because we need to move on to the next section soon.
No, I was going to say, obviously we're moving on to the next section now, which is all about your book. So when we get back after this short video, we want you to give us your best elevator pitch, if you can, if you don't mind. I know some people don't like being put on the spot, but I'm sure you'll be grand. But yeah, that's what we're asking.
Over to you, Chloe.
Yeah, so the book is about two women who live in London. One is Holly. She's 29 and she's been with her partner for about 9 years. She thinks he's going to propose, but instead he asks her to open their relationship. And then on the other hand, you have Fliss, who's been in an open relationship with her partner, Ash, for about 3 years. And then one day he unexpectedly asks her to close it. And then basically they meet in a women's toilet on a bad date, and then like realize they're in parallel situations and agree to give each other advice and strike up a friendship. And then the book kind of follows their dating mishaps.
Yeah. It's a very what I would call a modern idea of a romance compared to what we traditionally see in romances. So where did the kind of inspiration for this come from? Because it's not kind of your everyday rom-com story. So what gave you that inspiration?
Yeah, so at the time I was in an open relationship, and I was looking at, and I love reading like kind of traditional rom-coms, but they are, as you say, very traditional. And I was looking for something that kind of represented my dating experiences, and I couldn't find anything. I think a lot of representations of open relationships can be quite negative, or they can be, or you can find them more in like literary books, you know, like the Sally Rooney's and but I couldn't find anything like that was super commercial and fun that was positive about open relationships. And yeah, it just seemed like a good, they seemed like there was a gap for it.
Yeah. So having that personal experience has made it a lot easier for you to then translate that onto the page. And what I imagine was something, I guess, kind of more niche in that.
Sorry, I keep laughing, and I don't mean to come across rude, but I've just seen a comment in the comments that's making me laugh.
It's all right. I thought it said
yeah, no, it just says friends. It's from Halo, and it says friends who be together stay together.
Yeah.
Obviously, just the two women in the toilet meeting, and it just really tickled me. So I didn't want to seem like I was laughing at everything you were saying that was, serious and about your relationship and experiences. I just thought I have to get that out of the way.
It's true.
Before I forget, because I will forget, you distracting there. Great comment, by the way. Was that with your experience going into that story, and it's kind of a niche kind of rom-com, as we kind of figured out that you were looking for that because it wasn't out there. What's the feedback been like? Have you had any messages of support in that sense?
Yeah, you know what the feedback actually largely is that a lot of people were like, this was really interesting. I couldn't do an open relationship.
Yeah.
But this was really interesting. And I think largely that might be because maybe a lot of the like traditional rom-com readers aren't like, if you love a rom-com, maybe your idea of romance is more traditional. So you are the kind of person who's not doing, maybe that is why most of the books on open relationships are more literary or like explorative. But for me, like, I think the only thing you can do as a writer is be like, I would want to read that. And that's what I'm looking for and write it. But yeah, I think everyone who's read it has, even if they're like, I wouldn't want an open relationship, has found it an interesting perspective.
How did you navigate that in terms of like a lot of people that come for, to a rom-com, they are looking for that obviously comedic element, which is probably easily done with a series of like horrendous dating experiences. But they're also after that strand of love. Was it that you created the connection between the two characters, helping each other out with their advice? And was it a different type of love that you were looking at than maybe the romantic lust type love that we're used to seeing in rom-coms?
I think what I wanted to do with it was, I think, to say open relationships can be really romantic. And I think people tend to think of them as not romantic, but actually I think characters who have the freedom to be exploring and still keep, exploring their sexuality, exploring experiences, but still keep choosing each other. It was like, to me, that is its own kind of romance. And I do think that's romantic. But also I wanted the two perspectives, because I also wanted to show, I think it's romantic when it's done well. And I think it's a clusterfuck. Sorry, am I allowed to say fuck?
Yes, of course you are.
I think it's a shit show when, that was just a different swear word. I was like, I'm going to go more polite and just
get them all in. Why not? Get them out.
Yeah. In the 30 seconds.
I think it's also obviously a shit show when it's done badly. So that's why I wanted to have like the two perspectives. And obviously, there's a lot of open relationships that go really wrong. as well. I think, as well, I really love rom-coms as well. It's hard to define sometimes. Like maybe this is more like women's fiction drama as well, kind of built into the rom-com, because I feel like one of the couples has a happy ending, but maybe, not, I don't want to spoil, but not everyone does. So I don't mind that, but it's actually an interesting conversation. I was talking to one of my authors the other day, being like, if the two main characters don't end up together, can we still call it a romance if the focus is love? So I think I like that, but I think maybe some of the traditional rom-com readers are not necessarily looking for us to reinvent the wheel.
Well, that's like the opposite of a rom-com, because the old-fashioned rom-coms, you'd always have the couple together, they'd fall in love with the other people, then they'd get together. That's the success story. But having it when they got that open relationship, but they can't be together, but that's the people they love, then the romance is there, right? Did I explain that really weirdly?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
And also, sorry,
you dad explained that.
yeah. Anyway,
but also my cat started doing something weird behind you at that same time, so I kind of lost that. Sorry if that was a blank look.
Yeah, pretend it was really rubbish, because I think it was. We'll move on from that. Chris, take me away with another question, please.
Yeah, I did have another question. I was going to say, how do you, obviously, as someone who's experienced an open relationship yourself, how tempting was it to draw on your own experiences? And how did you navigate drawing on your own experiences and then creating fictional ones in order to craft this novel?
Yeah, so that's kind of why I liked having the two characters, because I was like, you can look at some really opposing views here. And whilst I think what I really wanted to do was, whilst obviously I was in an open relationship and therefore I wanted to read something about that, I saw a gap for it. I also was like, I don't really just want to write a book about myself. So I did make sure that the setup of both of those relationships was very different to my own. And I also, I mean, as well as I was doing one at that time, but I also have had friends who have been in them, and well, a lot of friends actually who have been in them. And I think every single person I've spoken to who has done an open relationship, it has been different. So I think that was quite nice in the way that I could pick some characters, set them up in the way that it worked for them, and think this doesn't have to be about me. And I think everyone who does it, it works slightly differently for everyone. Whereas I think monogamy is monogamy, right? Like there's no, that's the setup. It's very clear. Whereas I think literally everyone I've spoken to in an open relationship, it always seems like they've got their own spin on it.
Interesting.
So in terms of like having the opposing views and stuff, was it important for you were you trying to address like misconceptions, or were you just going where the characters were taking you? Or did you have like a sort of, I know people may think this, so I do want to explore this bit at some point, and parental views or generational views might be different, and I kind of want to tackle that as well? And did you take that approach in terms of planning bits out that you did want to get to, or was it just a natural journey that the characters were on?
I think a little bit of both. I think it's really fun to have characters that you make up that are just going on journeys, and you don't want a book to be preachy or moralizing. But I think, I think I did get a lot of comments from people who were like, your relationship's not serious, or your relationship is kind of lesser than or inferior, because in their head, like that's monogamy is the one, the thing to strive for. And that's obviously something that that's an idea that we're very much handed, and is kind of held up as this pinnacle of relationship achievement. And so definitely I wanted to address that a little bit, that I think open relationships done well can be really healthy and whatever. But basically, I just want to say whatever works for you, just whatever works for you, go for it. Some people it's not going to work for, some people it is, but you don't have to follow this kind of relationship script that you're kind of given. But I also didn't want the book to be too moralizing. I just wanted it to be fun, really.
So, Chloe, do you read the reviews for your books? It often are very Very common answer, surprisingly.
No.
I've got one.
Nothing good can come of it.
Yes, but that's a lie, because I've got one that backs up what you've said about this story. And it's off Amazon. It was a 5-star review, and it's only a snippet. It was like an essay, which is always a good sign. It says, if I can find it, hang on. Where have I put that? Hang on. I just read it.
You're scrolling through all the 1-star reviews to try and find the good one.
Oh, I've got it. It says, Open-Minded is one of my new favorite rom-coms for the simple fact it doesn't follow the same blueprint of so many others before it. It's a fresh, exciting, unpredictable, and completely chaotic concept that works so well.
Oh,
So
that's really nice.
Yeah, that completely backs up what we talked about, how the traditional rom-com is very traditional, and what you talked about is the modern world in sense that of your personal relationships and experiences molded into this book. So I think that's a really good sign that what they've read is what they've been looking for, and that was one of many reviews that really supported this novel. So all I'm going to say to the people watching this, listening to this, that if you go in the description of the show, you can pick that book up, which came out, I think, in February. Is that right?
Feb in the UK, yeah. Still to come in the US. So let's see what the US make of it.
Do we know when?
November.
Okay. So November, guys. I know we've got some US viewers right now. If you want to, guys, please leave us some comments and excitement that you want this book, and we will try our best to get one sent out to you, because I know you guys will not want to wait till November for that. Anya says, I'm looking forward to this book. Halo says it sounds great, and they're both in the US. So if you want this book, let us know, and we'll try and do a little competition. We'll send one out to you. And that will be like ahead of time. Is that allowed? Yeah, of course it is, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, sure. Why
Absolutely.
not? With that in mind,
from the UK, won't it?
Yeah. Very shortly, we'll be going to community questions. We'll be asking Chloe your questions. So please have a good think about what you want to ask Chloe. It could be about career, about her book, about her future books, or professional career, whatever that is. Send those questions in now. So, Chris, do you want to ask anything else before we move on?
Yeah, we'll go to community questions. I feel like we've never had any difficult questions on the show before, but I don't think we'll get any now because we can see them all and filter them all anyway. But an open relationship we've never talked about, so that could be quite interesting. Let's go to community questions and we'll ask ours, and then we'll go over to the community and see what they're saying.
Okie dokie, let's do it. Community questions coming right up. Send your questions in. In the chat, Anya says, I'll buy this book from you guys and send shipping costs. My BFF will read this too. No, we'll do a competition. If you don't win it, then maybe. But yeah, look out for it. We'll send some details.
Yeah, so the first staple question that we have on the show is, if you could take any character from fiction and make that character your own, which character would you choose and why?
Take any character from fiction and make them my own.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Do what you want with them.
Do I want with them? Maybe I've talked about her a lot tonight already, but just maybe Georgia Nicholson for Louise Renson, just because she's so funny. Humor is just what I rate above everything else. I was like, I'm incapable of taking on books that don't have like some kind of humor to them, and that was like seminal for me. This discovering when I was a teenager that girls can be funny. So yeah, I think probably Georgia. Always Georgia. We love her.
Nice.
Love it.
Yeah. Saying that, you agreed with the Game of Thrones thing. If you could take the ending of anything fictional, whether that be a TV show, a book, or a film, and change the ending of anything at all, what ending would you change and why?
Okay, it would have to be the Gilmore Girls revival. Are you guys familiar with the Gilmore Girls? And did you watch the revival?
But not seen that.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, so the revival, she ended it the way she wanted to end the original series, but she ended it with Rory kind of shock announcing to Lorelai that she was pregnant, And it's like,
Ooh.
it's not a shock announcement. She's 32. I don't care that she's pregnant. Like, I'm sorry that that's the way you wanted to end it when, like, 10 years ago when she was supposed to be like 20. And I get that that's full circle. But don't cling on to the ending you wanted to give it 10 years ago and give it to me when she's 32, because I'm like, whatever, I don't care. To be honest, the whole revival, I see a comment in the chat section, the whole revival was so weird. Yes, it was. And that, in fact, the whole thing felt like an ending that just shouldn't have happened. The whole revival itself. And she should have made...
Sorry.
Yeah, she did. And she didn't fuck Jess, you know.
Okay, I'm gonna put up. We've got swears on tonight anyway. So Rory also fucked a Wookiee, which I didn't see coming.
She did.
Am I missing something like a Wookiee?
Yeah, it was
like
really. It was. Yeah, a guy dressed up as a Wookiee, but she gave us nothing with Jess. All we got was Jess staring at her through a window longingly, but we didn't get anything between them, and I was very disappointed.
It's the worst thing, isn't it, when you're invested in something and it just ends poorly.
Yeah,
it just sucks. You spent so much time and effort in putting it into that, and it's frustrating.
This is almost cyclical now with the Stephen King comment at the beginning.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we have a few other staple questions before we get some from the comments. And one of them is, if you could send anything that you've written into space for a potential future race or alien race to read, what would you send up there and why?
Anything that I've read or written?
Well, both.
Both. Oh my God. Oh, okay. Maybe what I've written, maybe my first book that was all about the teen experiences of a teenage girl, because I feel like the aliens will want to read that. Nothing more interesting telling about humanity than, you know, the experiences of a teenage girl. And what else? I can only, whenever anyone asks me the question about like that, I can only ever think of the thing that I'm reading right now, which is like Friendaholic by Elizabeth Day, which I am really enjoying. But I'm not sure. Maybe, yeah, the aliens would like to learn about how we do friendship.
Yeah. That would be good, because compassion and empathy, and that could benefit us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's an interesting book because it's talking about how it's the only relationship that we have that we kind of don't have a biological need for, which is really interesting. So, like, obviously, with romantic relationships, it's sort of about procreating. And then with parental relationships, you know, it's about the survival of the human race. But friendships are the only kind of relationship that we have that we can't work out the kind of scientific function for. And it's
really strange, isn't it? I never thought about that, because and most people are very happy to spend time on their own, but also really appreciate having friends around. So it's like, that never thought in that sense. That's
and it's weird, you know, like animals don't have friends, you know. I mean, maybe they move in packs for protection, but they don't have friends in the way that humans do. It is interesting.
Do you know, someone told me before this like conspiracy that, you know, when you meet somebody and you just instantly connect with them and you think, yes, this person, we're these kind of same people, and there's people you meet and you instantly dislike them. Like there's something you don't trust. You do not get on with that person. That there's like a past life thingy, whatever that might be, where you know that person, you know that soul, and when you meet them, you exactly know who that is, and you get on with them. And it's always kind of bugged me not bugged me, but been on my mind since then, because I meet people and some I really get on with and some I don't trust. So it's like, do we have that built into us where we know we do not mix with that person? You know, it's very odd.
It is odd, isn't it? How you can tell. But then have you ever had your first impression of someone really overturned? You're like, no.
No. No, I haven't.
That's it. They're dead to me.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. Let's get some questions from the comments, and then we'll go back to some of the staple ones, if you don't mind, Chloe, because I know we are slightly going over now, if that's okay.
Okay. Sure. Halo says, thank you, Halo, always. Do you have any tricks to switch between agent brain, editing brain, and writing brain?
Oh, yeah, it's hard. I feel like writing brain needs to be very boundaried in the way that it's like, okay, this is writing time now, no distractions, no it needs to just be about you and the characters, and being able to have that lack of self-consciousness when you're getting into it and you're kind of creatively flowing. And then the editing brain is probably quite similar, actually, because it's like you and the characters and kind of creatively thinking around what you can do with the book. And then agent brain has so many other brains in it because you're doing so many different kinds of bits all throughout the day. I would say it's mainly just about switching off your emails when you're writing, and then not thinking about your writing when you're in your emails and you're doing your agent work. Like just being really boundaried about the kind of I can't think of another word for boundaries. Being really boundaried about your boundaries.
Yeah. Do you think? I think it's going to get harder for the modern society to get into that kind of space, because so instant gratification is so much present now that when they get a bit older and they're trying to get into that headspace of writing without the distraction, I think it's going to be really difficult.
I agree. I think because I'm a child who grew up on the cusp of the internet age, I didn't have it as a child. So I think you learn to focus on books in a very different way than kids probably are now.
Well, it's going to be difficult, and I hope that's not a thing. I think hopefully the books and the creativity keep flowing, because otherwise AI is going to take over forever.
Well, we get lovely submissions from kids, so I'm sure some of them are definitely out there writing.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's always cute.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a little sort of Freaky Friday / weird question off the back of that. If you woke up tomorrow and you only had one of those brains intact, so agency, editing, or writing, which brain would you want it to be?
Agenting, probably. I think I'm an agent through and through. I always say I'm like 80% agent, 20% writer.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that because of social parties? It's
because
right?
I like the deal. I like the deal maker. I like the kind of gamble, the deal, the excitement. And you could get to do that all the time as an agent, and whilst loving books, but also just, it's exciting. It's an exciting job.
Yeah. I bet.
So from that, Chloe, like obviously without going into any details of who it was and things like that, but when you think back to those sort of deals where they've been huge successes, what do you think from a writing point of view has been the difference in those books when they're compared alongside others? Do you think it's the pure talent that the person has, or is it luck, or is it a mixture of both? Or obviously I'm putting words into your mouth now, so what do you think it's?
It's talent and it's timing. So I think it's both. Yeah, I think if you send out an amazing book, so a few years ago, I've always kind of loved, for instance, like dark academia wasn't a thing a few years ago. I was constantly trying to make it happen. Now everyone wants it. And so things that I sent out 5 years ago that I couldn't sell, I'm now getting loads of money for. And it's so interesting because the market, comes around to your taste. So I've always been here. I've always loved horror. I've always loved dark academia. I've always loved romantasy, and now and for ages we couldn't sell any YA, and now the market really wants those things. And I'm like, I was always here with horror, but now publishers paying for it, so that's great. So you just got to ride the wave until it goes out of fashion again.
Have you
do you ever put books in the back drawer in terms of going, that's not right now, but it's a great idea, I will get back in touch with them when the loop turns around? Or do you try and push that book because you think this is amazing, people need to read it now?
I try and push things sometimes even at the wrong time, because sometimes you go out with stuff at the wrong time and then you might not get a massive deal as you would if you went out with it at the right time, but you might get a small deal that then when it hits the market, it's really successful, and then it's the first of its kind, and then that's still great for the author. So I tend to ignore the market as much as I can, but it doesn't always work out for me. But that's what I try to do.
I'd like to ask, if if you can give a tip to people who are looking to tap into the market at the right time, but might not know how to do that, is there any advice that they could follow to actually try and get there at the right time?
Look at what's working. Think of something really, similar but different, and then write it really fucking fast.
I love that advice. Yeah.
Like,
There's
don't
another
sleep.
question from
Just get that book out.
Just get it in.
Yeah.
There's one more question from the writing community, and I don't think we would ever ask this question, or
is it Halos?
Yeah. Again, yeah, it's Halo. So I think we should
read out, Chris.
Yeah. So, what is the greatest misconception about open relationships that you wish everyone knew?
Ooh, that's a hard one. That's a hard one. I think that I think a lot of people think it signals the end of a relationship or a crisis in a relationship, which for a lot of people it can, but for a lot of people that's not necessarily the case. So I think often if you say you're in an open relationship, people are like, oh. and actually for some people they really work and they're great. So I think, yeah, that's probably it.
There you go. Lovely.
I was going to say, because we made me make that a staple question, but I don't know if it'd go down well with all of us.
No.
My other thing as well is that I think there's also then some people who are like, oh yeah, anyone could actually be in an open relationship. We're just we're just told monogamy and that's how I actually don't think that's true either. I think it's true. I don't think it's true, and I think it takes quite a specific kind of person to be in one. So, but I think more people could be in one than we're led to believe, but I don't think everyone can be in one. If that makes sense.
I just think I would hate to be the person who brought that up. If you got it, if you misjudged it.
It needs to be mutual. If one person's in it and the other person doesn't want to be, I think it's probably not going to work, but I'm no expert.
So, Chloe, we're over our time and we appreciate the fact that you spent time with us. But before we wrap this up, what can people expect from you next in terms of release? Because I know Open Minded is not out in the US until November. That's quite far away. But in the UK here, what could be next for your readers?
Yeah, so I've got a book coming that's kind of like an unhinged to all the boys I loved before. So it's basically about this woman who gets told she's going to die by her tarot reader. So she writes all these like unhinged letters to everyone in her life and then doesn't die. So obviously because it's a tarot reader.
Great story.
I'm really excited.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, brilliant.
Love that.
So much
we talked about tarot reading in the past before on the show. It's not the first time it's been mentioned.
I love it.
We had, go on.
No, we did. We did a bit of tarot reading ourselves, didn't we? Well, we tried to.
Fun.
Yeah, well, you did. I can't remember what you said.
Yeah, I've dabbled, but you said it sounded right. It sounded close to your life. I've got one of these books. Book of tarot. So I'm not actually lying. Yeah. It's not amazing. You're probably right. It probably is all fiction, but it's fun for creating fiction.
No, I mean, I actually do. As much as I'm kind of making fun of tarot in this book, I also do kind of believe in tarot. So I'm kind of just making fun of myself.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, I think some people have got that sixth sense weird veil thing going on. Like when I've had a couple in the past, I've been like, no, you're absolutely completely off the mark. But there's been somewhere I've been like, whoa. Yeah, this is very scary. I'm gonna leave.
I mean, I read tarot, and I feel like every time I do, people are like, "That's scarily accurate," and I'm like, "Oh,
really?
Always have a great time." Yeah.
We'll come back on a Halloween show. Is it wrong to do it at Halloween?
I don't know. We did it on Halloween, didn't we?
Yeah, come back on a Halloween show, Chloe, and do a tarot reading.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll get my cat involved, my black spooky cat.
Yeah, it'd be like Chris O'Lee. Your shadow still looks like an alien.
Yeah.
But yeah,
stop reminding me. That freaks me out.
So,
So Chloe, before we go, where can people find your books? Where can they find information about you? Where can they follow you on social media if they want to? And do you are you okay with people getting in touch with you on social media and stuff and asking you various questions or saying how much they love and appreciate your work?
Yeah, sure. And my I always call it Twitter still. My X handle is at Chloe Seager, and my Instagram is at Chloe N Seager. So I'm around. Very happy for people to get in touch.
Nice.
And where can the books get bought?
Probably Amazon. I shouldn't recommend Amazon, should I?
Are they in local
To
bookstores?
Amazon because it's great for the rankings.
Yeah. Well, again, that
But
link.
don't, because it's a terrible.
It is the Amazon link in the description, so
business.
please go and pre-order it if you're in the US. If you're in the UK, please buy it now. And if you're interested in winning it from us, US people, please, I don't know, tweet us.
I mean, Chloe, maybe you could propose a question that people could answer, and we'll send the answers to you, and you can pick your favorite one.
Ooh, okay. Can I think about that after the show? Do I have to come up with one now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we don't have to put you on the
And it
spot.
can be as random as you like as well. Doesn't have to be anything to do with writing. The box is open for that. Yeah. So, Chloe, all I'd like to say is from us, you've been a wonderful guest. There's so much information that we've taken from the show and so much more we could probably pick out of your brain. But thank you from us. You've been wonderful, and a lot of value is taken from this show. Please, we will support you, and hopefully people will pick this book up. Have a great weekend. I'm very jealous that you've had Thai curry and I have not, because I haven't eaten yet. I'm going to go eat something.
Go eat.
Yeah. But from us, we really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much to all the guests, the audience that have tuned in, and the ones that will tune in. Thank you so much. It means the world to us. Season 14 coming up next week. Anything from you, Chris?
No, just again, thank you very much. And yeah, I never thought we'd mention about a Wookiee on the show or the cluster element that we had. So it's been a great show. So yeah, thanks very much, and
Thanks
enjoy
so
your
much
weekend.
for having me. Have a good
It was
weekend.
the phrase that he fucked a Wookiee. Or no, he didn't. Someone fucked a Wookiee. Oh, God knows. I'm going.
Ruined it now. Just waving goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye.